As we discussed earlier, negotiations in Congress to prevent a government shutdown have reportedly fallen through. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid placed the blame on the Tea Party, on the Republicans in the Tea Party, who are refusing to compromise in budget negotiations. Reid said, "The infighting between the Tea Party and the rest of the Republican Party is keeping our negotiating partner away from the negotiating table." One of the main obstacles in the budget negotiations is demands by Republicans to defund Planned Parenthood and Obamacare. In other words, Republicans are arguing that unless disadvantaged women and more than 52 million people nationwide, uninsured people, are blocked from access to health care, they'll shut down the government. So how is that a winning position? And what exactly are Republicans really trying to do? For more on this, I'm joined by Democratic strategist Erica Canuti and Phil Kerpen, Vice President at Americans for Prosperity. Erica, Phil, welcome back to the program. It's great to have you both here with us. Erica, first of all, Harry Reid says the Tea Party is effectively killing the budget negotiations. The Tea Party is largely funded by the Koch brothers, or at least was initially kicked off. Absolutely. Does this mean that two billionaires have the power to shut down the government?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that necessarily two billionaires are the ones saying, you know, you guys go ahead and create a problem and shut down the government. But I would say that absolutely that the Tea Party does have the ability to shut down the government.
There is a growing split among Republicans on a number of issues, from national surveillance to spending, and we may see that playing out on the panel here right now. Bill, on Obamacare, folks from the Tea Party wing, including Senator DeMint, say no funding the government unless you defund Obamacare. Why are they wrong?
Well, they're right to want to fight Obamacare, and they're right, I think, that the leadership in the House and especially in the Senate hasn't done enough to try to force votes, especially in the Senate, to defund parts of it or delay parts of Obamacare. And I think there are more intelligent, perhaps more ways tactically to fight than simply saying, you know, we're going to defund all of Obamacare, and if you don't vote, and then voting for any continuing resolution that doesn't fully defend Obamacare is surrender. Because it's going to be very hard to fully defund all of Obamacare with President Obama as president.
Republicans say this is crazy. Tom Cole says it's suicidal. Richard Burr, your former colleague in the Senate, says it is, quote, the dumbest idea I've ever heard. What are they missing?
The whole point is we need to fund the government, but we should not fund Obamacare. As this is a temporary funding mechanism that's coming up in September, it should not be funded. And this would be a statement.
But Senator, you know, what they say is you don't take a hostage unless you're prepared to shoot him.
Right.
And if you're going to go down this road, are you prepared to shut down the government? Because the Democrats are not going to go along with this. Are you prepared to shut down the government?
I wouldn't shut down the government, but if Obama would not accept a funding bill for the government that fully funds the government because it didn't have his failed law in it, then he would be shutting down the government. And that's a case we're going to take to the American people in August. Through Heritage Action, we're going to be doing dozens of town halls around the country.
Man, he's not bluffing. Listen to him, man. He's just crazy enough to do it.
Robert, I swear I'll blow this nigger's head all over this town. Oh, Lordy Lord, he's desperate. Do what he say. Do what he say.
Our goal here is to cut spending. It's not to shut down the government. I believe that trying to put Obamacare on this vehicle risked shutting down the government. That's not what our goal is.
Over and over again, we're willing to compromise, we're willing to negotiate. I don't think they poll tested we won't negotiate. I think it's awful for them to say that over and over again.
Yeah, I do too. And I just came back from a 2-hour meeting with them, and that was basically the same view privately as it was publicly.
I think if we keep saying we wanted to defund it, we fought for that, but now we're willing to compromise on this, I think they can't. And we're going to. I think. Well, I know we don't want to be here, but we're going to win this, I think.
Continue to do everything we can to repeal the president's failed health care law. This week, the House will pass a CR that locks the sequester savings in and defunds Obamacare.
But let me say this first. I would have a policy that we do not negotiate with terrorists. We have to lay that principle down first. Now,
you know, the president thinks that American families and small businesses are doing just fine in this economy. Speech after speech is about justifying his failed policies.
Gloves have to come off. It's time for people to sober up. The President of the United States, Barack Obama, is destroying the United States economy. There is no other way to describe this. Systematically destroying it.
Can you tell me whether Mr. Friendly, or I should say Mr. Skelly, said anything to you to indicate his responsibility in getting rid of Joey Doyle?
Right.
And would you say, Mr. Malloy, that Mr. Friendly made it very clear to you that it was absolutely necessary that he murder Joey Doyle in order to maintain his control of the docks and the waterfront locals? Is that correct?
Will there be anything else, sir?
Yes, Sidney. If Mr. Friendly calls, I'm out.
So what does this mean for the economy, which is still limping back to health? Federal landmarks like Yellowstone National Park and the Statue of Liberty closed yesterday. That hurts the tourism industry. 800,000 federal workers across the country are being furloughed. Their lost paychecks will take $200 million out of the economy every day. The most conservative Republicans in the House refuse to fund the government unless they can derail President Obama's health care law at the same time. What about, your average American? Obviously, those people being furloughed or missing their paychecks, we talk about $200 million a day out of the economy. But for regular folks, what sort of impact could this have?
Well, from a kind of macro perspective, one reason people should care is because the longer this goes on, the more it will impact the economy, and the economy is fragile. And that's something that we've been trying to get out of the dumps when it comes to the economy limping along, as you said. So more aggressive or aggressive estimates of what this could mean for the economy come from people like Mark Zandi at Moody's, who says if this goes on for 3 to 4 weeks, this could eat 1.4% out of growth in this quarter, which is about half of expected growth. So that's significant when the economy is only growing at 2% a year, 2.5% in the second quarter. So that's significant, and that's something that's felt throughout the economy. Also, unemployment is a lot weaker. Unemployment's a lot higher than it was during the 95 and 96 shutdown. It was like around 5.5% then. Now it's 7.3%. So the economy is not in as good of a space as it was looking back to a prior shutdown.
Yeah, just recently we learned that employers are actually scaling back in terms of holiday hiring for holiday help. So it's not looking good. I'm sure every little percentage makes a difference, right?
Absolutely. And that gets to kind of some of the intangibles that when this kind of thing happens, economists try to quantify or investment analysts try to quantify, which is the impact this has on business confidence, on not knowing what is Washington doing. Did they have it together? Can I feel comfortable investing? Is the economy going to keep going, or is Washington going to do something to derail it from their end? So these are kind of all concerns that can weigh on the economy and can weigh on the private sector in terms of the decisions that they make to hire, to invest, to deploy capital, and all that matters to the economy too.